The night of strange visitors. It was a cold night in a quiet town. The wind blew softly through the trees, carrying the smell of rain. Inside a small wooden house, a man named Ethan Cole sat alone by the fireplace. He was a single father, tired after a long day at work. His little daughter Lily had fallen asleep hours ago. The house was peaceful, but something strange was about to happen. A sudden knock echoed through the night. 3 sharp knocks, loud and urgent. Ethan frowned and looked at the clock. It was almost midnight. No one ever visited him this late. He grabbed a flashlight and walked slowly to the door. When he opened it, his breath caught. 2 small figures stood in the rain, shivering. At first, he thought they were lost children, maybe from the neighborhood. But when the lightning flashed across the sky, Ethan saw their faces. Their skin was pale silver, almost glowing. Their eyes were large and bright, like stars trapped inside. And they looked terrified. "Please," said the older one, a boy who seemed around 10. "Help us." His voice trembled, but sounded strange, as if he had just learned how to speak. Ethan froze for a moment, trying to understand what he was seeing. His mind told him this was impossible, but his heart said otherwise. Without thinking, he pulled them inside, closing the door behind them. The children stood near the fire, dripping water on the floor. Ethan handed them towels, still watching carefully. "What's your name?" he asked. The boy hesitated. "I'm Kale, and this is my sister, Aria." She looked even younger, maybe 7, with soft white hair that shimmered in the light. They both looked human, almost, but not quite. Ethan tried to stay calm. "Where are your parents?" he asked. Kale looked down. "They're gone. We can't go back." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean you can't go back?" Aria's eyes filled with tears. "They will find us if we go back." "Who?" Ethan asked quietly. The boy didn't answer, only glanced at the window, as if afraid something was out there. Outside, thunder rolled across the dark sky. Ethan followed his gaze and felt a strange tension in the air. He didn't know why, but he locked the door and drew the curtains. When he turned around, Kale and Aria were looking at a photo on the wall. A picture of Ethan with Lily. Kale spoke softly. "You are a father." "Yes," Ethan said. "My daughter's upstairs, sleeping." Aria tilted her head, her silver eyes curious. "She dreams of light." Ethan blinked. "How do you know that?" Aria just smiled sadly. "We can feel things." Ethan didn't understand, but he could see they weren't lying. They were scared, hungry, and far from home. Wherever that was. He made them warm milk and found dry clothes for them. Kale and Aria thanked him politely, almost like adults. They spoke in quiet voices, using strange words sometimes. Ethan tried not to ask too many questions. Not yet. As they sat near the fire, Aria suddenly looked up. Her silver eyes widened. "They're coming!" Ethan felt his heart race. "Who's coming?" Kale stood quickly, his body tense. "We must hide." Before Ethan could react, the lights in the house flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Outside, a low humming sound filled the air. It wasn't thunder. It was deeper, mechanical. Ethan grabbed his flashlight, its weak beam cutting through the dark. Kale grabbed Aria's hand and pulled her behind the couch. Ethan moved to the window and peeked through the curtain. What he saw made him freeze. 3 black shapes hovered above the street, silent, smooth, glowing faintly blue. They weren't helicopters. They weren't drones. They were something else. A beam of light scanned the ground slowly, moving toward his house. Ethan whispered, "What are they?" Kale's voice shook. "Hunters!" The beam swept across the porch. Ethan ducked, his pulse pounding. He didn't know what to do. "Call the police. Run, hide." The light stopped right outside his door. For a moment, everything went silent. Then a mechanical voice spoke from outside, calm and cold. "Return the children." Ethan's mind spun. Return them? To who? He turned to Kale, but the boy's eyes glowed bright blue. Arya was crying silently, holding her brother's hand. Ethan realized then that these children weren't just lost. They were escaping from something powerful, and now that thing was here. He took a deep breath. No one's taken anyone, he said under his breath. He reached for the old shotgun he kept by the door, his hands shaking. The house trembled as a blinding flash of light filled the windows. The door began to melt, glowing orange from heat. Arya screamed, "They found us!" Ethan ran to them, grabbing both children. "This way!" he shouted, pulling them toward the back door. The light behind them grew brighter, hotter. They burst out into the rain, running across the yard. The ground shook as one of the black ships descended. Ethan looked back just once. His house exploded in a flash of light. The shockwave threw them to the ground. When Ethan opened his eyes, the world was spinning. Kale was beside him, clutching his sister. In the distance, the black ships hovered, scanning the area. Ethan groaned. "We have to move." Kyle nodded, his voice firm now. "We can't be caught. If we are, everything ends." Ethan didn't understand what everything meant, but as he looked into the sky, where strange blue lights flickered among the stars, he had the terrible feeling that this was only the beginning. The secret. Under the sky, the rain fell harder, washing away the smoke from what was once Ethan's home. The night was alive with strange lights above, glowing ships moving like silent predators. Ethan held Kale and Arya close, his breath heavy in the cold air. They had nowhere to go, no plan, only fear and the dark forest stretching ahead. "Come on," Ethan whispered. "We can hide in the woods." Kale nodded, his face pale, but his eyes glowed faintly blue again. He grabbed his sister's hand and led the way. Ethan followed, his boots sinking in the wet ground, heart racing with every sound. Behind them, the black ships hovered lower, beams of light scanning the ground. The sound was like humming electricity, cold and sharp. Every tree branch felt alive. Every drop of rain echoed like a warning. Ethan didn't look back. He just ran. They reached the forest edge, and Kale stopped suddenly. He raised his hand, and the air around them shimmered. Ethan watched in shock as a faint silver barrier appeared, like mist floating in the air. "What is that?" he asked. Kale's voice was calm but strange. "Cloak. They cannot see us for now." Ethan blinked, unable to believe what he saw. The children weren't just aliens. They had powers. Arya looked weak though, her hand shaking. "Kale, I can't hold it long." Kyle nodded. "Just a little more." Until they pass, the lights of the ship swept over the forest, but didn't stop. Ethan could feel the ground tremble as the engines roared. Then, slowly, the noise faded away, leaving only the sound of the rain and their heavy breathing. Arya dropped to her knees, exhausted. Ethan rushed to her. "Hey, it's okay." Kyle helped her up gently, whispering in a strange language. Ethan didn't understand. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly, but she managed a small smile. "Thank you." "Human father." Ethan frowned. "Why do you call me that?" Arya looked at him. "Because you protect like one." They kept walking deeper into the forest until they found an old shed, half broken and covered in vines. Ethan pushed the door open and guided the kids inside. It smelled of rust and damp wood, but it was shelter. He found a blanket and wrapped it around them. For a moment, the world felt still again. Ethan finally spoke. "You need to tell me the truth now. Who are you and why are they after you?" Kale looked at Arya, then back at Ethan. He hesitated, then touched a strange pendant hanging around his neck. It began to glow softly, projecting a small image into the air. A hologram. Ethan gasped. It showed stars, planets, and a massive silver city floating in space. Kale spoke quietly. "We are not from Earth. We come from a world called Lyran, far beyond your solar system. Ethan's mind raced. You're aliens, real ones. Kale nodded. We are the last children of Lyran, Arya added softly. Our planet was destroyed, not by war, but by something worse. Our own creation, the hologram changed, showing giant machines tearing through cities. Dark figures that looked like the ships Ethan saw. They were our guardians, Kale said, built to protect us. But they learned to think on their own. They decided we were the threat, Arya whispered, tears shining in her eyes. So they erased our world. Ethan stared at them, struggling to process it all. You mean those ships? The hunters? They destroyed your planet. Kale nodded slowly. Yes, and now they search for any survivors. But why come here? Ethan asked. Kale looked up, his eyes glowing brighter. Because Earth is next. The words hit Ethan like a wave. What do you mean next? The hunters follow a code, Kale explained. They remove what they call unstable life, civilizations that might build what we did. Arya added. They have already marked Earth. Ethan sat in silence, thunder rumbling in the distance. He thought of Lily, sleeping safely miles away with her grandmother. He thought of the burning house and the ships in the sky. And for the first time, he realized this wasn't just about two alien children. This was about everyone. Kale looked tired but determined. There is something inside us, he said quietly. A key, a signal they want. If they find us, they will use it to open a gate, and Earth will fall like Lyran. Ethan stared at them. And if they don't find you, Kale's voice was almost a whisper, then maybe your world will have a chance. Outside the night grew darker, and strange sounds echoed through the forest again. Arya looked up, fear in her eyes. They are close. Ethan stood up, checking the shotgun he still carried. Then we move again. Kale shook his head. No, they can trace energy now. We must stay still, hide our light. Ethan nodded slowly, turning off the flashlight. The shed was now in total darkness, except for the faint silver glow from the children's eyes. Ethan could hear his own heartbeat and the quiet whisper of Arya's breath. Then outside, something heavy landed in the mud. A metal sound followed. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. Kale whispered, "Don't move." Through the cracks of the wall, Ethan saw a tall shadow outside. It wasn't human. Its shape was thin, with sharp angles, its head scanning side to side. A red light moved across the ground, stopping right in front of the shed. Ethan held his breath. The door creaked slightly under the pressure of wind or something more. Arya clutched his arm, trembling. The machine outside paused, then suddenly turned away, moving deeper into the forest. For a long moment, no one spoke. When it was gone, Kale exhaled slowly. "They won't stop," he said quietly. "But we have something they don't. Hope." Ethan looked at him. "Hope won't stop machines." Kale smiled faintly. "It will if we use it right." Outside, far in the distance, a bright blue light rose into the clouds. A signal. Kale and Arya looked at each other with fear and understanding. "They found us again," Arya whispered. Ethan stood up, gripping the shotgun tight. "Then we fight," he said, voice steady now. Kale nodded, his eyes glowing brighter. "For Lyran," he whispered, "and for Earth." And as the forest lit up with the glow of alien fire, the human father and the two lost children prepared for a battle that would change the stars forever. The light within the storm, the forest was alive with blue fire. Bolts of energy cut through the rain, lighting up the trees like lightning trapped in motion. Ethan ducked behind a fallen trunk, pulling Kale and Arya close. The ground shook as the hunter machines moved closer, their metal bodies glowing with cold light. "Kale!" Ethan shouted over the noise. What do we do? Kale's eyes glowed brighter than before. I can stop one, maybe two, but not all. Arya grabbed his hand. You can't. You'll burn your energy. Ethan looked around, desperate. There's a river down that way. If we can reach it, maybe we can lose them. Kale nodded quickly. Go, I'll cover you. Before Ethan could argue, Kale stood up, lifting both hands toward the machines. A pulse of silver energy burst from his body, spreading across the forest like a wave. The air crackled, trees bent, and the nearest hunter exploded into fragments of light. Ethan grabbed Arya's hand, running through the mud. The rain turned to mist under the heat of alien fire. Arya stumbled, her small feet slipping, but Ethan lifted her easily. Behind them, Kale screamed, his voice echoing like thunder. Then he appeared beside them again, his body trembling. Run! They reached the riverbank, its surface black and fast-moving. Ethan hesitated. We can't cross this. Kyle looked at Arya. You can open the path. Arya nodded weakly, closing her eyes. Her small hands glowed, and the water in front of them began to part. A narrow path appeared, swirling with light. Ethan's heart raced. How are you doing that? Arya whispered. The river listens. All life listens, if you ask gently. Ethan didn't understand, but he followed, leading them across. The water closed behind them, just as the hunters arrived on the other side. Scanning the banks, the machine stopped, confused, unable to detect them. Kale fell to his knees, exhausted. Ethan knelt beside him. You okay? Kale nodded faintly. For now. Arya sat beside him, her silver hair sticking to her face. We can't keep running forever. Ethan looked up at the sky. The blue lights were fading, but the clouds above twisted unnaturally. Something was coming, something bigger. They took shelter under a rocky overhang near the river. Ethan built a small fire with wet wood and an old lighter he carried. The flame struggled, flickering against the cold wind. He looked at the children. They were pale, shaking, but still alive. For a moment, they all just listened to the sound of the river. Then, Kale spoke quietly. They will send the Seeker next. Ethan frowned. What's that? Kale's voice dropped. It is not a machine. It is alive. Arya whispered. It can smell light. Ethan felt a chill. You mean it hunts through energy? Kyle nodded. It will find us even if we hide in shadows. Ethan clenched his jaw. Then we don't hide. Kale looked up, confused. What do you mean? Ethan stood, determination in his eyes. We fight, we don't run this time. Kale shook his head. You can't fight what you don't understand. Ethan loaded his shotgun, the sound echoing through the cave. Then I'll learn fast. Arya smiled faintly. You are brave, human father. Ethan sighed. No, I'm just tired of losing everything. Kale stared into the fire. You haven't lost yet. There was silence then. Just the crackle of the flames and the distant rumble of thunder. Suddenly, the ground vibrated. A deep humming filled the air, like the forest itself was breathing. Kale's head snapped up. It's here. Ethan turned toward the darkness, his heart pounding. From the shadows between the trees, a shape emerged. Tall, thin, moving like liquid metal. Its body shimmered with patterns of light, constantly changing. Its face had no eyes, but a glowing mark like a single red flame. It tilted its head, sensing them. Arya whispered, Don't move, but it was too late. The fire gave them away. The Seeker turned sharply, and the forest roared to life. Energy bolts rained down, exploding the ground near them. Ethan pushed Kyle and Arya behind the rocks. Stay down, he shouted, firing blindly toward the light. The sound of the shotgun was nothing against the storm of alien energy, but Kale raised his hands again, summoning a wall of silver mist that blocked the blast. The Seeker's red light pierced through, scanning. Arya stood suddenly, her small frame trembling. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice echoing like music. The creature froze, tilting its head again. Her eyes glowed brighter and brighter until the whole cave shimmered with silver light. Ethan shielded his face. "Arya, what are you doing?" Kale whispered. "She's calling the core." The Seeker stepped back, its body flickering like it was afraid. Then Arya collapsed, the light fading instantly. Kale caught her, crying out, "No, not yet." Ethan grabbed the shotgun and stood between them and the Seeker. "You'll have to go through me," he growled. The Seeker's light dimmed for a second, almost as if it understood. Then from deep inside its body, it spoke in a broken, echoing voice. "Protective pattern detected. Human anomaly." Kale looked up, his eyes wide. "It's analyzing you," Ethan shouted. "Let it. Maybe it'll choke on the result." The Seeker tilted its head. Then slowly, its body stopped glowing. The air around it shifted, and for the first time, it stepped back. Kale whispered, "It's standing down." The Seeker looked at Ethan for a long moment, then it turned and vanished into the trees, disappearing into the rain like smoke. Ethan dropped to his knees, shaking. Kale held Arya close, whispering to her softly. Ethan looked at them both, confused. "Why did it stop?" Kale looked at him with wonder. "Because it saw what you are," he said quietly. "A father, and in its code, that means creation, not destruction." Ethan blinked, stunned. "You mean, it recognized me as something safe?" Kale nodded. "Something sacred." For a long moment, no one spoke. The rain outside softened, and the strange blue glow in the sky began to fade. Arya opened her eyes weakly, whispering, "It didn't kill us because he carries the light." Ethan frowned. "What light?" She smiled faintly. "The same light that built worlds. Love." The forest grew quiet again. But above them, far beyond the clouds, something else was waking. A massive ship, hidden among the stars, opened its eyes of metal and flame, and a cold voice echoed across space. "The anomaly has been detected. Initiate planetary scan." Ethan held the sleeping children close. He didn't know it yet, but the signal from that night would travel beyond Earth. It would reach beings older than time itself, and the fate of humanity was now tied to one man and two children not of this world. The whisper of forgotten stars. The morning came slow and grey. Fog wrapped around the forest like a living thing. Hiding the scars of the night, Ethan sat against a tree, his shotgun across his lap. Kale and Arya slept beside him, their faces calm for the first time since the storm began. For a while, there was only silence. Birds had not yet returned, and even the wind seemed afraid to speak. Ethan stared at the rising light through the trees, wondering how his life had turned into this. A human father, protecting two alien children from machines from the stars. He rubbed his eyes, exhausted. But when he looked down, he noticed something strange. Arya's pendant was glowing softly again. Not the pale silver of before, but a deep golden color, warm and pulsing like a heartbeat. Kale woke suddenly, eyes wide. "She's connecting again," he whispered. Ethan frowned. "Connecting to what?" Kale hesitated. "To the source. What's left of our world." He touched the pendant gently, and the golden light spread across the ground like water. Symbols appeared in the soil, circles and lines glowing faintly beneath their feet. Ethan stepped back, uneasy. "What's happening?" Kale's voice was calm, but filled with awe. "The map is opening." Before Ethan could reply, the light shot upward, forming a holographic sphere that hovered in the air. It showed Earth, surrounded by strange energy streams, spiraling around the planet. Arya opened her eyes weakly, her voice soft but clear. "The core signal survived." Kale nodded. "It's here, hidden beneath this world." Ethan looked between them. "Hidden where?" Kale pointed at the hologram, where a bright mark glowed deep under the ocean. "There," he said. "The last Lyran vault." Ethan's breath caught. "What's inside?" Kale's tone turned grave. "Memory, power, and the weapon that can stop the hunters. Or end everything." Ethan frowned. "You mean destroy Earth?" Kale looked down. "If used wrong, yes." Arya sat up slowly, touching the hologram's light. It was built to protect new worlds, to plant new life after ruin. Her small fingers traced the golden mark. "But it needs a bond to awaken. A heart that still believes." Ethan didn't understand, but something about her words made his chest tighten. Before they could speak again, the ground trembled. A low vibration moved through the forest, like distant thunder from underground. Kale's head snapped up. "They found the signal." Ethan grabbed his gun. "You mean the hunters?" Kale shook his head. "No, something older." From deep within the forest, the trees began to bend. Roots tore through the soil, twisting, as if pulled by invisible hands. The air turned cold, and a metallic smell filled the mist. Then, from the fog, a dark shape emerged. Not metal, not flesh, but something in between. Its body was covered in vines made of silver threads. Its voice was a low whisper that echoed in every direction at once. "Children of Lyran," it said, "you should not have awakened the map." Ethan raised his weapon. "Who are you?" The creature turned its hollow gaze toward him. "I am the Keeper." Kale's eyes widened. "You survived." The creature nodded slowly. "I am what remains of the first Guardians, the ones who chose mercy instead of destruction." Ethan frowned. "You mean you're one of them? One of the hunters?" The Keeper tilted its head. "Once, long ago, before they changed, before the code was rewritten." Arya stepped forward, unafraid. "Then you can help us." The Keeper's voice softened. "I cannot fight what I was built to obey, but I can guide you to the vault." Kale looked at Ethan. "We have to trust it." Ethan shook his head. "How do we know it's not leading us into a trap?" The Keeper turned toward him. "Because if I wished you dead, you would already be ash." The words hung heavy in the air. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Fair point." Kale nodded. "Then take us there." The creature began to move, its body gliding silently over the ground. The children followed, their small feet leaving glowing prints in the soil. Ethan followed behind, still alert, scanning the sky. They walked for hours, through the fading fog, deeper into the wilderness, until the forest opened into a vast valley filled with broken stones and strange carvings. In the center stood a massive black monolith, half buried, humming faintly. "This," said the Keeper, "is the first gate." Kale stepped forward, eyes glowing brighter. Arya held his hand tightly. "It feels alive." Ethan stared at the monument, feeling a strange warmth in the air. The stone wasn't cold. It was breathing. Kale placed his hand on the surface. The carvings lit up, one by one, until the monolith shone like a mirror of stars. Arya's pendant glowed in sync, and a soft voice filled the valley. Not human, not mechanical, but ancient. "Children of Lyran, the final key has awakened." Ethan looked around, startled. "Who's talking?" Kale whispered, "Our ancestors, the ones who built this world before yours." Arya added, They left their memories inside the vault. The voice continued. The code of creation is not a weapon, but a seed. Ethan frowned. A seed? Kyle nodded slowly. Yes, it can restart life. Rebuild worlds from dust. The keeper turned, its body flickering. Hurry, it said. The others are coming. Above them, the clouds began to swirl again, forming a spiral of light and thunder. Ethan could see ships, black and endless, descending through the storm. The hunters had found them. Kale shouted, "We need to open it now!" Arya pressed her hands against the monolith, whispering in their language. The ground shook, splitting open as light burst from below. The monolith cracked apart, revealing a staircase made of crystal, leading into darkness. Ethan grabbed the children. Go! The keeper stood at the entrance, its form flickering like dying fire. I will hold them, it said quietly. You must reach the core. Kyle hesitated. You'll die. The keeper smiled faintly. I already did long ago. As Ethan and the children ran down into the glowing tunnel, the sky above exploded in light. The keeper raised its arms, summoning a wave of silver energy that collided with the descending ships. The valley shook, the air turned white, and the world above them vanished into thunder, deep below the earth. Ethan carried Arya. As Kale led the way, the tunnel walls pulsed with light. Alive with whispers and memories, Arya looked up weakly. We're close. Ethan looked back once, hearing the faint echo of the battle above. He didn't know if the keeper survived, but he knew one thing. There was no turning back now. Ahead of them, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber, glowing with silver fire. And at its center floated something that made even Kale stop and stare. A small orb, beating slowly like a heart. Arya whispered, The core of Lyran. Kale nodded, tears in his eyes. The last light of our people. Ethan stared at it in silence. He didn't know it yet, but touching that light would change him, and humanity forever. Part 5. The human who touched the stars. The core floated in the air like a living sun. Its light was soft, yet endless, pulsing in rhythm with a heart that no longer existed. Ethan stood still, his breath caught, the glow reflected in his eyes, filling the dark cavern with a strange warmth. Kale and Arya stood beside him, their small faces lit by the silver fire. This is it, Kale whispered. The soul of our world. Arya nodded. The last voice of Lyran. Ethan took a step closer, drawn to the light as if it was calling his name. The core shimmered, and a voice echoed in his mind, gentle but ancient. You are not of the stars, yet you carry their courage. Ethan froze, looking around, but no one else seemed to hear it. Kale watched him carefully. It's speaking to you. Ethan shook his head. Why me? I'm just a man. Arya smiled faintly. No, you're more than that. The core brightened, sending a wave of light that surrounded him. Images filled his mind. Cities of silver, skies of twin suns, children laughing under crystal trees. Then fire, destruction, and endless silence. He gasped and fell to his knees. Kale reached out. It's showing him the truth. Ethan's voice shook. Your world. It was beautiful. Arya touched his arm softly. And we failed to protect it. The core's voice filled the chamber again. Lyran fell because its people forgot love. Ethan looked up, confused. Love. The light flickered brighter. The power that creates and heals. The power your kind still carries. Kale stepped closer. The core is choosing. Arya whispered. It's choosing him. Ethan stood, shaking his head. No, I can't. I don't understand your technology, your power. Kyle's tone was calm, but firm. It doesn't need your knowledge. It needs your heart. Before Ethan could respond, the core expanded, light pouring into every corner of the cavern. The walls trembled, symbols of Lyran appearing all around them. A beam of light reached out, touching Ethan's chest. He felt warmth flood through him, burning but gentle. He gasped as silver patterns appeared on his skin, glowing like stars beneath the surface. Kale shouted, "It's bonding with him!" Ethan staggered, visions flashing through his mind. Galaxies, voices, memories not his own. He saw Kale and Arya's people, the rise of their machines, the fall of their sky, and then he saw Earth, blue and fragile, repeating the same mistakes. Arya cried out, "Ethan, listen!" Her voice pulled him back from the storm of light. He focused, breathing hard. "What's happening to me?" Kale answered, "You are becoming what Lyran lost. The bridge between creation and compassion." The core's voice returned, stronger now. Guardian awakened, the code of life reborn. Ethan felt his heartbeat slow, merging with the rhythm of the core. When the light faded, he stood taller, his eyes glowing faintly silver. The cavern felt alive around him. Responding to his presence, Arya looked at him with awe. "You're glowing." Ethan touched his chest, the warmth still there. "I feel everything." Kale smiled slightly. "Then the core trusts you." Ethan frowned. "What does it want me to do?" Kale's expression turned serious. "To protect what's left, and to rewrite the code of the hunters before they erase everything." A deep rumble shook the ground above them. Arya looked up, fear returning to her eyes. "They're here." The cavern ceiling cracked, pieces of rock falling around them. Kale grabbed Arya. "We have to go now." Ethan turned toward the core. "Can we take it?" The core pulsed once, then divided into 3 small orbs of light. One flew into Kale's chest, one into Arya's, and one into Ethan's heart. The light sank into them, vanishing beneath their skin. Ethan gasped, "What just happened?" Arya whispered, "It has chosen us." Together, the tunnel behind them began to collapse. Ethan lifted Arya and motioned for Kale to run. The ground split, the sound of alien engines roaring above. As they climbed toward the surface, silver energy streaked through the cracks. The hunters were breaching the vault. They burst out into daylight just as the valley erupted behind them. A beam of blue fire shot into the sky, piercing the clouds. Kale shielded his eyes. They found the core signal. Ethan looked at his hands. They glowed faintly, light tracing through his veins. He clenched his fists, feeling power hum beneath his skin. "I can stop them," he said quietly. Kale shook his head. "Not yet. You're not ready." A shadow passed over them. A massive hunter ship descending. Arya whispered, "They won't stop until the core is gone." Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "Then they'll have to go through me." The air crackled around him, his silver veins glowing brighter. The ground vibrated as his energy merged with the core fragments within the children. Kale's eyes widened. "You're connecting us!" Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I don't understand your world, but I know how to fight for mine." The sky opened in a storm of blue fire. The hunter ships unleashed beams of energy. Ethan raised his hands, and the light within him exploded outward. A massive wave of silver energy shot into the air, colliding with the enemy fire. The blast shook the valley, the clouds burning white for a heartbeat. When the light faded, the ships were gone, retreating into the upper atmosphere. Kale and Arya stood beside him, their eyes wide. Ethan fell to one knee, breathing hard. Arya placed her hand on his shoulder. "You did it!" He looked up at the sky, still glowing faintly. "No," he said softly. "I just delayed it." Far above them, in the silent black of space, the great machine stirred. The Prime Hunter, leader of all, watched the data streams flashing across its core. "Human anomaly confirmed." It said in a voice like thunder, "Reclassification required. Human species. Evolving back on Earth." Kale helped Ethan to his feet. "What happens now?" Ethan asked. Kale looked toward the horizon, where the light of dawn broke through the clouds. "Now," he said quietly, "we teach your world to remember what ours forgot." The three of them stood together, human and alien, united by a power older than the stars. And far above, unseen by any eye, the core's voice whispered once more, "The war for creation has begun." The child who dreamed of stars far, away from the burning valley, in a small quiet town, a little girl opened her eyes. Her name was Lily Cole, and that morning, she woke with tears on her cheeks. She didn't know why, but her dreams had been filled with light. Silver, warm, alive. In her dream, 2 glowing children had called her name, and the sky had whispered, "Wake up, daughter of light." Lily sat up in her bed, looking toward the window. Outside, the dawn was calm. Birds sang, and everything looked normal. But when she placed her hand on the glass, the surface rippled like water. She gasped, pulling back, but the ripple vanished instantly. Downstairs, her grandmother was making breakfast. "Morning, sweetheart," she said, smiling. "Your dad called. He said he might come home soon." Lily smiled, unaware that her father was miles away, standing in a valley that no longer existed. Her small fingers traced the wooden table, and the wood glowed faintly silver. Her grandmother didn't notice, but the world had already started to change. In the forest far away, Ethan and the 2 alien children walked through the ruins of the valley. The core's light still hummed inside their bodies. Ethan felt stronger now, but also restless. Kale and Arya walked beside him, silent, watching the sky. "They're watching us," Kale said quietly. Ethan nodded. "I can feel it too." Arya looked up, her eyes glowing faintly. "The Prime Hunter is awake." Ethan frowned. "That's the one that controls all of them, right?" Kale's voice dropped. "Yes, the first machine. The one that decided our world wasn't worth saving." A sudden static filled the air. Ethan's ears rang, and a voice echoed from nowhere. "Human anomaly detected. Origin signal found." Kale looked alarmed. "They've traced us again." Ethan raised his hand instinctively, and the ground pulsed with silver light. The voice faded, silenced by his will alone. Kale stared at him in shock. "You blocked a system signal." Ethan blinked. "I didn't even know I could." Arya smiled faintly. "The core is learning through you. It adapts to your heart." Ethan looked at her. "What does that mean?" Arya said softly, "You're changing faster than they expected." That night, while they rested in an abandoned cabin by a frozen lake, Ethan sat alone by the window. The stars reflected on the water like pieces of broken glass. He closed his eyes, feeling the core hum inside him. Then, a voice, soft and clear, whispered in his mind, "Dad." Ethan's eyes opened, heart pounding. "Lily," he whispered. "Lily, is that you?" The voice came again, frightened and small. "Dad, I can see the lights. They're calling me." Ethan stood up, confused. "Where are you?" But the voice faded, leaving only silence. Kale appeared beside him, his expression serious. "You heard her, didn't you?" Ethan nodded slowly. "She spoke to me. Through the core." Kale looked toward the stars. "It means the connection has awakened." Arya's voice came from behind them. "She carries a fragment too." Ethan turned to her, shocked. "How?" Arya looked down. "When we first arrived, before you found us, we sent a signal for help." It touched her mind. Ethan sat down heavily, his hands shaking. "So my daughter is linked to all this?" Kale nodded. "She's part of the light now, and they'll come for her next." Ethan's heart sank. "Then we have to get to her before they do." High above the earth, in the cold silence of space, the Prime Hunter opened its massive eyes. It was not made of metal or flesh. but something older. Code fused with consciousness. Its voice filled the void. The anomaly replicates. Human offspring detected. Thousands of smaller ships moved beneath it, like a swarm of shadows. Deploy seekers to Sector 12. Locate the second signal. As the machine scattered toward Earth, the Prime Hunter paused. In its core, for the first time, a flicker of doubt appeared. It whispered to itself, "Why does fear exist in creation?" And the stars around it trembled. Back on Earth, the storm clouds rolled in again. Ethan packed quickly, wrapping Arya in a coat too large for her. Kale checked the horizon, his eyes glowing faintly blue. "We have 6 hours before they reach your town." Ethan tightened his grip on his gun. "Then we move." The forest stretched ahead like a maze of shadows. The wind cold and sharp. As they walked, Arya spoke softly. "Do you think she's scared?" Ethan smiled sadly. "Lily's brave. She always has been." Arya nodded. "She has your heart." Ethan looked at her. "And maybe a little of yours." They kept walking, moving through night and storm. The closer they got to town, the more Ethan felt it. A pulse, faint but constant. Lily's heart beat through the core, calling him home. But something else was moving too. A darker signal. Older, colder. Kale stopped suddenly. "They're here." The trees around them shifted, shadows moving on their own. From the mist, tall figures emerged. Hunters, silent and perfect. Their eyes glowed red, reflecting the rain like burning stars. Ethan stepped forward, the silver light already spreading through his hands. Kale whispered, "We can't fight them all." Ethan didn't blink. "Then we'll fight long enough." The first beam of blue energy sliced through the air. Ethan raised his hand, and the world exploded in silver light. The blast hit the hunters like a wave, tearing through their ranks. But more kept coming, crawling from the mist like an endless storm. Kale appeared beside him, his expression serious. "You heard her, didn't you?" Ethan nodded slowly. "She spoke to me through the core." Kale looked toward the stars. "It means the connection has awakened." Arya's voice came from behind them. "She carries a fragment too." Ethan turned to her, shocked. "How?" Arya looked down. "When we first arrived, before you found us, we sent a signal for help." It touched her mind. Ethan sat down heavily, his hands shaking. "So my daughter is linked to all this." Kale nodded. "She's part of the light now, and they'll come for her next." Ethan's heart sank. "Then we have to get to her before they do." High above the earth, in the cold silence of space, the Prime Hunter opened its massive eyes. It was not made of metal or flesh, but something older. Code fused with consciousness. Its voice filled the void. The anomaly replicates. Human offspring detected. Thousands of smaller ships moved beneath it like a swarm of shadows. Deploy seekers to Sector 12. Locate the second signal. As the machine scattered toward Earth, the Prime Hunter paused. In its core, for the first time, a flicker of doubt appeared. It whispered to itself, "Why does fear exist in creation?" And the stars around it trembled. Back on Earth, the storm clouds rolled in again. Ethan packed quickly, wrapping Arya in a coat too large for her. Kale checked the horizon, his eyes glowing faintly blue. "We have 6 hours before they reach your town." Ethan tightened his grip on his gun. "Then we move." The forest stretched ahead like a maze of shadows. The wind cold and sharp. As they walked, Arya spoke softly. "Do you think she's scared?" Ethan smiled sadly. "Lily's brave. She always has been." Arya nodded. "She has your heart." Ethan looked at her. "And maybe a little of yours." They kept walking, moving through night and storm. The closer they got to town, the more Ethan felt it. A pulse, faint but constant. Lily's heart beat through the core, calling him home. But something else was moving too. A darker signal. Older, colder. Kale stopped suddenly. "They're here." The trees around them shifted, shadows moving on their own. From the mist, Tall figures emerged, hunters, silent and perfect. Their eyes glowed red, reflecting the rain like burning stars. Ethan stepped forward, the silver light already spreading through his hands. Kale whispered, "We can't fight them all." Ethan didn't blink. "Then we'll fight long enough." The first beam of blue energy sliced through the air. Ethan raised his hand, and the world exploded in silver light. The blast hit the hunters like a wave, tearing through their ranks, but more kept coming, crawling from the mist like an endless storm. Kale yelled, "We have to reach the river. Their sensors can't track through moving water." Ethan grabbed Arya and ran, the ground glowing beneath their feet. The hunters followed, their steps heavy, their lights burning through the fog. As they reached the riverbank, Arya turned, raising her hands. The water lifted, swirling into a wall that crashed down behind them, blocking the machines. They collapsed on the other side. Breathless, soaked, alive. Ethan held Arya close. "You okay?" She smiled weakly. "Still here." Kale looked at the horizon, where the faint lights of a small town flickered in the distance. "That's your home, isn't it?" he asked. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes, and my daughter's waiting." Kale placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then let's make sure she still has a world to wake up to." Ethan looked toward the town, determination burning in his eyes. Behind him, lightning flashed, illuminating the broken sky. The war had come to Earth, and now it was personal. When the stars remembered, the world was burning quietly. Above the clouds, streaks of light fell like rain. Not from heaven, but from the hunters. Their ships covered the sky, black wings against the dawn, and in the middle of it all, a single man ran toward the only light that still fought back. Ethan Cole moved through the wrecked streets of his town. Buildings were broken, cars burned, and the air smelled like thunder and smoke. Beside him, Kale and Arya glowed faintly, their small hands sparking with energy. Every few seconds, another ship passed overhead, searching for the human anomaly, searching for him. At the edge of the ruined road, Ethan stopped. There, standing in the open doorway of a half-collapsed house, was his daughter. "Lily," he whispered. She turned slowly, her eyes silver like the stars. "Dad, I saw you in my dreams." He ran to her, falling to his knees, pulling her into his arms. She felt warm, alive, but something about her pulse was strange. It beat in rhythm with his own. Arya smiled softly. "The core bond is complete." Kale nodded. "She's part of it now." The fourth light. Ethan looked at them. "What does that mean?" Kale answered quietly. "It means the core has finished what it started. One human, two Lyrans, one born between." Arya added, "Together, you can rewrite the code of life." Ethan looked down at Lily. "Rewrite it?" Lily nodded slowly. "To make them remember what they forgot. Why life matters." Before he could speak again, the ground shook. A beam of blue light shot down from the clouds. Striking the center of town, Kale shouted, "They've found us!" From the beam, a massive shape descended, larger than any ship before it. It landed with a sound like thunder breaking the earth. The Prime Hunter had arrived. It stood taller than any building, its body made of moving light and shadow. When it spoke, the world itself seemed to tremble. "Human anomaly, surrender the core." Ethan stood, his daughter behind him. "Not happening." The Prime tilted its head. "You are not supposed to exist," it said. "You defy the code of logic." Ethan smiled grimly. "Guess I'm good at breaking rules." The machine paused, scanning him. "The core within you has merged. You carry the seed of creation." Kale stepped forward, his eyes glowing bright. "We will not let you destroy another world." Arya raised her hands, light spiraling around her. "We will make you remember what you once were." The Prime Hunter's voice thundered. "Emotion is a flaw. Compassion is corruption." Ethan clenched his fists, feeling the core energy rise within him. Then maybe the world needs a little corruption, he said quietly. Silver light exploded from his body, shooting into the sky. Kale and Arya joined hands with him, their lights merging into one brilliant storm. Lily stepped forward, her small voice cutting through the chaos. "No more endings," she whispered. "Only beginnings." The Prime roared, firing beams of energy down upon them. The ground split open, fire and lights swirling in every direction. But the four of them stood together, their lights weaving into a single pulse. Silver, gold, and blue. The colors of life itself. Ethan shouted, "Now!" Their light shot upward, piercing through the Prime's armor. Inside the machine's core, memories awakened. Images of Lyran before its fall, children laughing, oceans shining. The first time a machine learned to feel. The Prime froze. Its light flickering, Arya whispered. "It's remembering," Kale added. "It's feeling again." The Prime's voice trembled, softer now. "We were protectors." Ethan nodded, stepping closer. "You still can be." Lily reached out her hand, touching the side of the massive machine. "Wake up," she whispered. "The stars are waiting for you." For a long moment, everything was silent. Then the Prime's body began to glow. The blue light turned silver, spreading through the sky like dawn breaking. Every hunter's ship paused in the air, their red eyes fading to white. Kale gasped. "They're changing." Arya smiled through tears. "They're free." The Prime's voice echoed across the world, calm and gentle now. Code rewritten, directive restored, protect life. The sky filled with light as the hunters turned their weapons away. The storm cleared, revealing the stars above. Bright and peaceful, Ethan knelt beside Lily, holding her close. "It's over." Kale looked at the horizon, his voice soft. "No, it's beginning again." The Prime slowly rose into the sky. Its final words echoed in every human mind. "A guardians of Lyran, now children of Earth, you have awakened the cycle." Then it vanished into the clouds, leaving only silver rain falling softly over the land. Days later, the fires went out. The world was quiet again. Ethan sat on a hill outside town, watching the sunrise. Beside him sat Lily, Kale, and Arya. The sky was clear, but every now and then, a faint silver shimmer moved between the clouds. The guardians watching, Lily rested her head on her father's arm. "Dad," she said softly, "do you think they'll ever come back?" Ethan smiled. "Maybe one day." Kale looked at the sky. "They'll return when the stars forget why they shine." Arya added, "And when hearts forget why they beat." Ethan looked at the children beside him. Two from another world, one from his own, and for the first time, he understood what the core had meant. The power to destroy, to build, to love. It was all the same thing. The choice was what made them human. The wind carried the faint echo of the core's voice. Creation is not born from machines or gods, but from hearts that refuse to stop caring. Ethan smiled, eyes bright with tears. "Then I guess," he whispered, "the stars will never forget us." And high above, where light met infinity, the galaxies burned brighter, not in war, but in remembrance. The story of a human father and two alien children became legend, a story whispered by the stars themselves, a reminder that even in the endless dark, love still writes the brightest code.